Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. Today is another episode of reviewing NHL teams so far in their off seasons, of course, as today we're going to be talking about the Nashville Predators. But before we get into that, I'd like to just say, if you are new to the channel, make sure to slap that subscribe button and hit that like button as well. That'll be very much appreciated. And if you want to go check out my Twitch, as well as I do tons of live streams on there, the link will also be down in the description for that. So today we're talking about the Nashville Predators, who were pretty damn busy this offseason. They went through a kind of a whole change. They lost Craig Smith, which was a pretty big loss. They got rid of Mikael Granlund, Nick Bonino they traded away. They bought out Kyle Turris. They traded away Austin Watson. They have done a lot to this team, but to be honest with you, they didn't really add a whole lot to the Nashville Predators. So let's take a look and let's start off with the draft. The draft for the Nashville Predators, I think, was really good. Getting Askarov as your future goalie now for the Nashville Predators sets up a lot for the future of your team. Askarov is a crazy good goalie in the KHL. The numbers that he puts up are just insane. He's going to be in the World Juniors this year. Hopefully he can perform a little bit better than what he did last year. Last year, Askarov struggled in the World Juniors, so we'll see how well he will do in this year. Luke, I don't know his first name, but he looks like a decent prospect. And overall, David Pulley didn't have too bad of a draft. He brought in some nice forward prospects to add into the team. And so far, not looking like too bad of a team. And then going into the trades, he was pretty busy. He was able to get rid of Nick Bonino, yes, some picks, to pick up Luke Coonan. Now, Luke Coonan, which I'm going to be talking about with Professor Joe, who will be joining the show later on, as we're going to be talking about more Nashville stuff. I forgot to announce that. We'll be talking with him. But Luke Coonan, analytics, of course, talking about his analytics, was very poor. But me and Professor Joe, we were talking about how much this guy is actually improving and how good of a year he kind of had last year for goal scoring wise, and how we think this guy could be kind of a piece to help them get some more goals, right? I mean, a very weak second line as it is, Luke Coonan might add some extra goal scoring power to that second line, and that's, of course, if he's able to get going. But this type of move, like I was saying in the Minnesota Wild move, was kind of like, hey, can we get a young player back from when we gave you guys Kevin Fiala and we took Granlund? I think it's a good deal for the Nashville Predators. It's a very smart deal. Getting Luke Coonan helps you add some more depth to the team for the Nashville Predators. And then they also traded away Austin Watson. And in signing, they got a lot of depth players for the team this upcoming season. They got players like Matt Benning, which I love their pickup of Matt Benning. Gained him for $1 million a year, which is really cheap for Matt Benning, especially with how well he's played for the Edmonton Oilers. He's a really good shutdown defender. Nick Cousins, he's a great guy as well. He's played for a couple teams over the past couple years with Vegas and Philly and Arizona. Really solid defensive statistics and can get used to a little bit of offense. Mark Borowiecki, they brought him in for a big leadership role to play that kind of like top six D-man, even if now he's a platoon guy. Brett Richardson, great depth forward for him. And then Rem Pitlick, getting him re-signed. But a lot of nice depth moves for the Nashville Predators, kind of improving the team overall, which I don't mind. But the one thing that they are missing is that guy that can get them another 20 goals. All right, I mean, even two guys. They're missing two guys. I mean, Luke Coonan, like, is he going to be able to get 20 goals this next season? You really can't guarantee that. Rocco Grimaldi doesn't get you 20 goals. You're really going to have to kind of maybe go after Mike Hoffman. I mean, they've been rumored to go after Max Pacioretty, which wouldn't be a bad idea, which would give them that offensive power and would give them that bigness going into next season, and especially help out that second line if you're able to get, like, for example, a Pacioretty to play alongside of a Duchesne and Luke Coonan. This roster needs a little bit of tweaking up. I think they got a really good, strong defense core, and with adding Benning and Borowiecki, I think they did really smart. And adding depth with Cousins, Richardson, and just Richardson and Cousins. I think they did really well. I'm gonna give this team a B plus on their offseason, and I would give them the A if they went after some goal scoring. If they go after some goal scoring, then yeah, that's for sure like an A minus A. I feel more like an A minus. I felt like they can maybe get another goal scorer, but if Coonan develops and he goes off and he pops off and gets maybe 20, 25 goals, then that's huge for the Nashville Predators. So I'm gonna give this team a B plus for their offseason. Now tell me guys in the comment section below what you guys think the grade should be for the Nashville Predators, as we're gonna be jumping on to the interview with Professor Joe. It's a lot of fun. Make sure to check out his channel, the link in the description below. So let's jump right into that. Hello everyone, as today we got a very special guest to the Nashville Predators offseason review. We have Professor Joe, as we all call him. How's your day going, man?
Doing well, doing well. Always excited to talk about some hockey, especially with a team in Nashville that really plays to the so close yet so far saying, and I feel for them every year. Want them to get one eventually.
Yeah, so let's just jump right into today's episode. As the Nashville Predators, they've been pretty busy this offseason, making a couple moves, and especially for the draft. They didn't make it to the playoffs last year, which was rough for them. They didn't do too well, I think, in the qualifying rounds, if I'm sure. Did they make it to the qual? Yeah, they faced off against Arizona Coyotes. Unfortunately, they lost against them, and they kind of took a little bit of a change. I think for the best. They got rid of Nick Bonino this offseason. They also picked up Yaroslav Askarov, which will be the first topic of this episode. What do you think of David Pulley's draft this year going into 2020? And especially, what do you think of Askarov's future in Nashville?
Well, he's going to be huge, obviously, because you got UC Soros, who's already a pretty solid, good goaltender. At least when he's playing really good, I would say definitely a notch above average. He's at least definitely a league average starter. And then you have, I think the reason why Soros is also going to be a little bit above average goaltender is you had a stud when you were coming up, being the guy to show you the ropes in Pecorino, even though he had a bad year last year. That was his first actual really down year of his really entire career. And what is he, 38 now? So, like, that's a pretty good testament to how good your career has been if when you're in your late 30s, that's the first time someone can really say, wow, you had a pretty bad year. And I honestly might be part of the minority on this, but I think they still have a good tandem because I don't think Pekka's done. A lot of people think he was like last year was, okay, he's finished, he's old, he's done. I still think he can be a good platoon. I don't know if his bulk load minutes are still obviously a thing he can do, but I think if you're platooning them, he can still be a very good goalie for you. I think he was more of a season that was just bad for him, which happens every now and again, especially as someone's aging, rather than it was actually a overall downcline in his career. It's kind of the same. People said at times last year, even though his overall numbers look good, Fleury struggled. I don't think many people think Fleury's done. So that's I think Pekka will be fine and be able to come back, and they'll have a good. So having those two to be able to be, and then Soros to be the bridge to Askarov, you're really setting yourself up pretty there. It's kind of having a dime, like a few dimes a dozen almost. You're really setting yourself up nicely.
And you really are. Askarov has a great save percentage. He has a great goals against in the KHL. He's been ripping it up there for a couple of years now, especially as a young goalie like Askarov. Not very many goalies can really do that in the KHL and with how good he's been. So we'll jump right into the trades, which they've been pretty busy this offseason. The biggest one was picking up Luke Coonan from the Minnesota Wild, trading away Nick Bonino, who analytically looks like a great third line centerman for the Nashville Predators. Now heading over to Minnesota. What do you think the Nashville Predators made this deal for picking up Luke Coonan, and what do you think Luke Coonan will do for the Nashville Predators this upcoming year?
Yeah, I think they took obviously a chance. I mean, giving up Nick Bonino, he's in his early 30s now. A good analytical player. for a former first-round pick that put together his best season in Minnesota, not necessarily plus-minus wise, but offensively and goals and assists wise, last season in 31 points in 63 games, where if you're going to play a guy in your bottom six and maybe tend to gradually try to develop him, because we have to remember this kid's only 23, then that's actually a pretty decent numbers to start with, because his thing is he's a first round pick from 16. The Wild obviously would have liked to see him have a season like last year, about a year or in his rookie season, because then that's usually what you see at first round picks, then a progression. He's just been a slow progressor, so I feel like he's a very safe risk, because if he keeps slow progressing, you would go from, it went 4 to 17, then all the way up to 31. If you can go from 31 to say 40 something points, that just keeps teetering up. And if you only got rid of a guy in his early 30s as a center, that's not going to seem like a lot for a guy that becomes a pretty decent center for your team for probably a pretty decent contract too, because all he's had was one actually pretty productive season. He's still an RFA now, but I think he's going to get, I don't see him getting more than something in the two whatever at most range, if they do that. And that's probably if it's tenure, because they're probably want a couple more if they want to give him like a 3-year deal. He might get two something. I don't see him getting anywhere near three, because he only had last year as his season he really started showing some confidence fully.
Yeah, and that was too, like, he really, like, yeah, started showing a little bit of confidence, and analytically he wasn't that great either. So I agree with you. I only really see him getting 1.5, $2 million a year, kind of prove it to us kind of deal. But now we'll jump into free agency, because David Pulley was really busy signing a lot of depth players. Yeah, bringing in my boy Matthew Benning, Nick Cousins, Mark Borowicki, and Brad Richardson. What do you think this will do for the Nashville Predators' depth, especially since all these guys have pretty good damn analytics when you look at them defensively? So, what do you think is the plan here for the Nashville Predators?
Yeah, Benning, I always thought was a good depth defenseman. He's a guy, once the Oilers got rid of, I thought would find a job pretty quickly. Obviously, that did end up happening. I think he's more than just a depth guy, though. I think he's more of a 5-6 if you need him to play. And obviously, I think in Nashville, that's what they're hope, because you're going to have Fabro obviously in your starting lineup. Mark
Mm-hmm.
Borecki, I think, ideally could be their platoon guy in and out if all their young guys play well. Because I'm just thinking you have Yossi, Ellis, Ekholm, Tenorti if you want to start him, and then you have Fabro and Benning. So that's already 6. And then Borecki would kind of be your extra if you want the older guy to be your extra, or if you want Tenorti to be your extra, who emerged last year as a former third or first round pick, excuse me, from years ago. So it depends what you want to do there. I do think their depth is the unknown depth, names that people don't know as much, so you don't look to it as much. But I do think their defensive depth is definitely fine. What obviously strikes me with Nashville is how's their scoring depth. That's always have been the question recently with Nashville. That's why I like the addition of low risk, getting a Luke Coonan, because you saw his offensive numbers go up. His analytics weren't great,
Mm-hmm.
but if his offensive numbers go up and you can finally get him to get going and really get his defensive numbers going, obviously his analytics are going to improve. And Nashville's, I think, a good team to be able to try to do that for him. So that's why I kind of like that move. Dylan Cousins has always been a good sneaky bottom 6. So I think he adds some depth with the ability to score about like 9 to 10 goals in your bottom 6 for you. But my biggest question is, I think they might have to still add another guy if they don't do it this offseason during the season. That's really going to add in the offensive department. Their defense and goaltending for me is not a concern. What's a concern for me is their depth beyond really the second line when it comes to really being able to put the puck in the net.
Yeah, now with that question, with them not being able to put the puck in the back of the net, do you think the Nashville Predators might be looking at a guy like a Mike Hoffman, or maybe even an Anthony Duclair, to bring them in to help that kind of goal scoring touch here in Nashville?
Duclair would depend where he's at right now with his asking price, because that was the only situation with him. It wasn't an issue of did the team want him or not. It was his asking price was ridiculous. So I think Duclair, if he brought his asking price down to a reasonable sum, would actually fit in well because Nashville does have guys that can be a little bit quick. Like Jan Krook ain't a slow skater. Forsberg, we know, sure as hell ain't a slow skater. Arvidsson and others, they can move a little bit on their feet. So Duclair would really fit into that. Hoffman also can move, though. It kind of depends what you want. I feel like Anthony Duclair is younger, so if you feel you can coach him, you might be able to get more defense out of him, where Hoffman's you already kind of know what you're getting. He's not really defensive, he's offensive. But if you're takes the other end, you will have to see what the realm is for Hoffman. I do agree with John, though, from off the wall. They're probably his highest destination of a contender because they got the most money out of a contending team. The only other one is Columbus, and Hoffman, like John pointed out, might not strike you as a John Tortorella player. So
Yeah.
that's why I could see him going here. It's going to depend on how they think of their defense, really. I think at the forward position, do they think they could bring in guys like Duclair and Hoffman who will be able to really help to your offense? But unless if they improve, really have not been very good defensive players in their careers. That's the question they would have to ask themselves. I think their team's fine, though. Cousins, you added one of the better defensive players, forechecking guys. In my opinion, Sissons, we already know is that, and in this projection they're on the same line, so that's going to be a pain for defenses and offenses. So I think they're fine on defense. Coonan is a guy that's only 23, like I said. So if you are able to get a guy in young and coach him, that's a guy that obviously you think you could be able to get going on defense. We've seen teams bring in other guys and really get them. For example, the reason Johansson gets paid a bunch of money is when he first came in. He's a guy that usually when he first shows up looks amazing, and then you pay for impression, and then it kind of goes on down the line. So I think they're fine on defense because, again, Johansson's great at defense. What he gives in that $8 million cap hit on offense might be a little bit of a different story. But that's why I think they can get a Hoffman. Their defense, I don't know what you think on that, but I don't think their defense is an issue. If you're a team with issues on defense, you might not want to add Mike Hoffman.
Yeah, and I think their defense is fine. I think with Colton Sissons, he's an underrated defensive guy. Nick Cousins, same with him. Brad Richardson had a little bit of a down year, but the team is looking very solid defensively, which will bring up another topic. And I know RFA talk, and usually you see it from not very many GMs. They don't really go after people who are an RFA. But there has been some rumors, some tremblings about Anthony Cirelli maybe going to the Nashville Predators. Maybe David Pulley will reach out a contract to him. Do you see that as a possibility, especially since Tampa Bay is so over cap right now? And I've also been hearing Alex Kilroy going to the Nashville Predators as well as we all know, Tampa Bay has to release some cap space. So do you see the Nashville Predators making a deal with the Tampa Bay Lightning or maybe even going after an RFA?
Yeah, I could see them doing that because they're in a cap crunch. So if you're able to get a Killorn, obviously, if you're able to get a Palat from them, you're going to go there and ask them because you're in a cap crunch. Can we get these guys from you? And they might be willing to because they want to sign Cirelli, who's the guy. If you want to give a contract to, you can try to give him an offer sheet and see if they don't match it. The biggest thing I think is the reason why you don't see a lot of offer sheets is it definitely hurts your GM rep, I think, in the eyes of some other GMs. So you have to make sure if you're offer sheeting someone, it's for an actual purpose and not just for the statement to fans that, oh, we tried to get such and such. So that's really what it needs to be. They have the money that they could definitely put the Lightning out of the sweepstakes. It's just going to be the question. You pay two centers 8 and 8. So how much do you want to pay to put the Lightning out of the sweepstakes on another center to then have, I don't know, like $4 or less million tied up to just your top 3 line centers? And then you have Sissons, who gets paid about $3 million. So he gets paid 287 or something like that. So
Mm-hmm.
that's the question they're going to have to answer for that. Where we know with some of the other guys, their contracts are more in the fives and whatever. Because Tampa, we know if you offer Ciccarelli, is going to get creative and probably start taking, if they really want to keep him, minimal trades. Like we hear the rumors with Hannafin going around right now that Calgary's taking
Mm-hmm.
peanuts for him because they want to get rid of his salary. That might happen if Sorelli gets offer sheeted, so then they can match it and not have to worry about anything. So offer sheeting him is a risk because I think if someone else offer sheets him, that's what's also going to allow Nashville to go in and be like, hey, now you guys are really screwed. Can we get Andre Palat or someone that you need to get the cap off? Where obviously that won't work if they offer sheet him because they're not going to do a trade after you tried to offer sheet their players. So that it's a tough one, but I would say just trade for somebody because offer sheets haven't worked in a while. So unless
Mm-hmm.
you're damn sure about it, I would say just trade for a Killorn, trade for a Palat. I guess Tyler Johnson, but I don't think they really need Tyler Johnson. So that's why I said those other two.
So let's get into the grading, Professor Joe. So what type of grade would you give the Nashville Predators on their offseason, and what's your final thoughts on the team?
I would give them. It's a good question. The draft, I think, is really what sparks the
Mm-hmm.
Predators' grade in my eyes. So with that being said, I would give them probably I'll go with a B plus because I can't give them in the A's because I wanted them to add a surefire score, which they haven't done yet. So that's why I'm at a B plus. I like the addition of Luke Coonan, who I think they're going to be able to develop into a better version of himself because of more of their style of play is more defensive,
Mm-hmm.
and really focuses on that. That I think is really going to benefit a player like him. And then we said goaltending's key. They have goaltending locked in for the future with Pekka platooning with Soros for now, then Soros, and then Askarov. So that's why I'm at a B plus. Obviously, I will definitely give them an A something though if they did go out and get a Hoffman or make a trade for hell. Let's throw it in there to make Nashville fans happy for a Johnny Gaudreau or somebody that's on the market.
Yeah.
So
Well, thank you for being on the show, Joe. That was amazing. And everyone, go check this guy out. He does some amazing content. He's also on Steel Flyers as well. I'll put all his links down in the description below. But we're going to end things here. Thank you very much for watching. And I'll see you guys all later. Adios, amigos.